In the name of Allah, the most merciful, the most compassionate. O people, eat of the lawful and pure things in the earth, and follow not in the footsteps of Satan, for surely he is your open enemy. He only commands you to do evil and commit acts of indecency, and to ascribe to Allah the things concerning which you have no knowledge, that He really is their source. And when they're told, follow what Allah has revealed, they say, no, we shall follow what we found our forefathers adhering to. What? Even if their forefathers were devoid of understanding and right guidance? Those who have refused to follow the way of Allah resemble cattle. When the shepherd calls them, they hear nothing except shouting and crying. They are deaf, dumb, and blind, so they understand nothing. Believers, eat of the pure things wherewith we have provided you for sustenance, and give thanks to Allah if it is Him that you serve. He has made unlawful to you only carrion and blood and the flesh of swine, and that over which there has been pronounced the name of anyone other than Allah's. But he who is constrained to eat of them, and he neither covets them nor exceeds the indispensable limit, incurs no sin. Allah is all forgiving, all compassionate. Those who conceal anything of the book revealed by Allah and sell it away for a trifling gain are merely filling their bellies with fire. Allah will neither address them on the day of resurrection, nor shall He pronounce them pure. A painful chastisement lies in store for them. They are the ones who bought error in exchange for true guidance, and chastisement in exchange for forgiveness. How patient they are in enduring the fire. This is so because Allah revealed the book with the truth, but those who disagreed concerning the book veered far away from the truth. Righteousness does not consist in turning your faces towards the east or towards the west. True righteousness consists in believing in Allah and the last day, the angels, the book and the prophets, and in giving away one's property in love of Him to one's kinsmen, the orphans, the poor, and the wayfarer, and to those who ask for help, and in freeing the necks of slaves, and in establishing prayer and dispensing the zakah. True righteousness is attained by those who are faithful to their promise once they have made it, and by those who remain steadfast in adversity and affliction, and at the time of battle between truth and falsehood. Such are the truthful ones, such are the God-fearing. Believers, retribution is prescribed for you in cases of killing. If a free man is guilty, then the free man. If a slave is guilty, then the slave. If a female is guilty, then the female. But if something of a murderer's guilt is remitted by his brother, this should be adhered to in fairness, and payment be made in a goodly manner. This is an alleviation and a mercy from your Lord, and for him who commits excess, after that there is a painful chastisement. People of understanding, there is life for you in retribution, that you may guard yourselves against violating the law. It is decreed that when death approaches, those of you who leave behind property shall bequeath equitably to parents and kinsmen. This is an obligation on the God-fearing. Then, if anyone alters the will after hearing it, this sin shall be upon them who alter. Surely, Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. He who suspects that the testator has committed an error or injustice, and then brings about a settlement among the parties concerned, incurs no sin. Surely, Allah is much forgiving, most compassionate. Believers, fasting is enjoined upon you, as it was enjoined upon those before you, that you become God-fearing. Fasting is for a fixed number of days, and if one of you be sick, or if one of you be on a journey, you will fast the same number of other days later on. For those who are capable of fasting, but still do not fast, there is a redemption, feeding a needy man for each day missed. Whoever voluntarily does more good than is required will find it better for him, and that you should fast is better for you, if you only know. During the month of Ramadan, the Qur'an was sent down as a guidance to the people with clear signs of true guidance and as the criterion between right and wrong. So those of you who live to see that month should fast it, and whoever is sick or on a journey should fast the same number of other days instead. Allah wants ease and not hardship for you, so that you may complete the number of days required. Magnify Allah for what He has guided you to, and give thanks to Him. O Muhammad, when my servants ask you about me, tell them, I am quite near. I hear and answer the call of the caller whenever he calls me. Let them listen to my call and believe in me. Perhaps they will be guided aright. It has been made lawful for you to go into your wives during the night of the fast. They are your garment, and you are theirs. Allah knows that you used to betray yourselves, and He mercifully relented and pardoned you. So you may now associate intimately with your wives and benefit from the enjoyment Allah has made lawful for you, and eat and drink at night until you can discern the white streak of dawn against the blackness of the night. Then give up all that and complete your fasting until night sets in. But do not associate intimately with your wives during the period when you are on retreat in the mosques. These are the bounds set by Allah. Do not then even draw near them. Thus does Allah make His signs clear to mankind, that they may stay away from evil. Do not usurp one another's possessions by false means, nor proffer your possessions to the authorities, so that you may sinfully and knowingly usurp a portion of another's possessions. People question you concerning the phases of the moon. Say, they are signs to determine time for the sake of people and for the pilgrimage. Also tell them, true righteousness is not that you enter your houses from the back. Righteousness lies in fearing Allah, so enter your houses by their doors and fear Allah, that you might attain true success. Fight in the way of Allah against those who fight against you, but do not transgress, for Allah does not love transgressors. Kill them whenever you confront them and drive them out from where they drove you out. For though killing is sinful, wrongful persecution is even worse than killing. Do not fight against them near the holy mosque unless they fight against you. But if they fight against you, kill them, for that is the reward of such unbelievers. Then, if they desist, know well that Allah is ever forgiving, most compassionate. Keep on fighting against them until mischief ends and the way prescribed by Allah prevails. But if they desist, then know that hostility is directed only against the wrongdoers. The sacred month for the sacred month. Sanctities should be respected alike by all concerned. Thus, if someone has attacked you, attack him just as he attacked you, and fear Allah, and remain conscious that Allah is with those who guard against violating the bounds set by Him. Spend in the way of Allah, and do not cast yourselves into destruction with your own hands. Do good, for Allah loves those who do good. Complete Hajj and Umrah for Allah. And if you are prevented from doing so, then make the offering which is available to you, and do not shave your heads until the offering reaches its appointed place. If any of you should have to shave your head before that because of illness or injury to the head, then you should make redemption by fasting, or almsgiving, or ritual sacrifice. And when you are secure, then he who avails of Umrah before the time of Hajj shall give the offering he can afford. And if he cannot afford the offering, he shall fast for 3 days during Hajj and for 7 days after he returns home. That is 10 days in all. This privilege is for those whose families do not live near the holy mosque. Guard against violating these ordinances of Allah, and be mindful that Allah is severe in chastisement. The months of Hajj are well known. Whoever intends to perform pilgrimage in these months shall abstain from sensual indulgence, wicked conduct, and quarreling, and whatever good you do, Allah knows it. Take your provisions for the pilgrimage, but in truth, the best provision is piety. Men of understanding, beware of disobeying me. It is no offense for you to seek the bounty of your Lord during pilgrimage. When you hasten back from Arafat, then remember Allah at Al-Mash'ar Al-Haram, i.e. Al-Muzdalfa, and remember Him in the manner He has directed you. For before this, you were surely in error. Then press on even as others press on, and implore Allah's forgiveness. Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. And when you have performed your rites, remember Allah as you remember your fathers, or remember Him even more. There are some among those that remember Allah who say, Our Lord, grant us what is good in this world. Such shall have no share in the hereafter. There are others who say, Our Lord, grant us what is good in this world and what is good in the world to come, and protect us from the chastisement of the fire. They shall have a portion from what they earn. Allah is quick in reckoning. And remember Allah through the appointed days. It is no sin for him who hastens off and returns in 2 days, and it is no sin for him who delays the return, provided he has spent the days in piety. Beware of disobeying Allah, and know well that to Him you all shall be mustered. Among people there is a kind whose sayings on the affairs of the world fascinate you. He calls Allah again and again to bear testimony to his sincerity. yet he is most fierce in enmity. Whenever he attains authority, he goes about the earth spreading mischief and laying to waste crops and human life, even though Allah, whose testimony he invokes, does not love mischief. Whenever he is told, "Fear Allah," his vainglory seizes him in his sin, so hell shall suffice for him. What a wretched resting place. On the other hand, among men there is a kind who dedicates his life seeking to please Allah. Allah is immensely kind to such devoted servants. Believers, enter wholly into Islam and do not follow in the footsteps of Satan, for he is your open enemy. And if you stumble in spite of the clear instructions which have come to you, then know well that Allah is most mighty, most wise. Are those people who are not following the right path in spite of admonition and instruction, waiting for Allah to come to them in canopies of clouds with a retinue of angels and settle the matter finally? To Allah shall all matters ultimately be referred. Ask the children of Israel how many clear signs we gave them, and when a people tamper with Allah's bounty after it has been bestowed on them, then indeed Allah is severe in punishment. Worldly life has been made attractive to those who have denied the truth. Such men deride the men of faith, but the pious shall rank higher than them on the day of resurrection. As for worldly livelihood, Allah grants it to whomsoever He wills, without measure. In the beginning, mankind followed one single way. Later on, this state ended and differences arose. Then Allah sent forth prophets as heralds of good tidings for the righteous and as warners against the consequences of evildoing. He sent down with them the book embodying the truth, so that it might judge among people in their disputes. And those who innovated divergent ways rather than follow the truth were none other than those who had received the knowledge of the truth and clear guidance, and they did so to commit excesses against each other. So by His leave, Allah directed the believers to the right way in matters on which they disagreed. Allah guides whomsoever He wills onto a straight way. Do you suppose that you will enter paradise untouched by the suffering endured by the people of faith who passed away before you? They were afflicted by misery and hardship, and were so convulsed that the messenger and the believers with him cried out, "When will Allah's help arrive?" They were assured, "Behold, Allah's help is close by." People ask you what they should spend. Say, whatever wealth you spend, let it be for your parents and kinsmen, the orphans, the needy, and the wayfarer. Allah is aware of whatever good you do. Fighting is ordained upon you, and it is disliked by you. It may well be that you dislike a thing even though it is good for you, and it may well be that you like a thing even though it is bad for you. Allah knows, and you do not know. People ask you about fighting in the holy month. Say, fighting in it is an awesome sin, but barring people from the way of Allah, disbelieving in Him, and denying entry into the holy mosque and expelling its inmates from it are more awesome acts in the sight of Allah, and persecution is even more heinous than killing. They will not cease fighting against you till they turn you from your religion if they can. So remember well that whoever from amongst you turns away from his religion and dies in the state of unbelief, their work will go to waste in this world and in the next. They are destined for the fire, and it is there that they will abide. On the contrary, those who believed and forsook their hearth and home and strove in the way of Allah, such may rightly hope for the mercy of Allah, for Allah is all forgiving, all merciful. They ask you about wine and games of chance. Say, in both these there is great evil, even though there is some benefit for people, but their evil is greater than their benefit. They ask, what should we spend in the way of Allah? Say, whatever you can spare. In this way, Allah clearly expounds His injunctions to you that you may reflect upon them, both in regard to this world and the next. They question you concerning orphans. Say, to deal with them in the way which is to their good, that is best. And if you intermix your expenses in living with them, there is no harm, for they are your brothers. Allah knows the mischievous from the righteous, and had Allah willed, He would indeed have imposed on you exacting conditions, but He is all-powerful, most wise. Marry not the women who associate others with Allah in His divinity until they believe, for a believing slave girl is better than a free, respectable woman who associates others with Allah in His divinity, even though she might please you. Likewise, do not give your women in marriage to men who associate others with Allah in His divinity until they believe, for a believing slave is better than a free, respectable man who associates others with Allah in His divinity, even though He might please you. Such people call you towards the fire, and Allah calls you by His leave towards paradise and forgiveness, and He makes His injunctions clear to people so that they may take heed. They ask you about menstruation. Say, it is a state of impurity, so keep away from women in the state of menstruation, and do not approach them until they are cleansed. And when they are cleansed, then come to them as Allah has commanded you. Truly, Allah loves those who abstain from evil and keep themselves pure. Your wives are your tilth. Go then into your tilth as you wish, but take heed of your ultimate future and avoid incurring the wrath of Allah. Know well that one day you shall face Him. Announce good tidings to the believers. Do not swear by Allah in your oaths if they are intended to hinder you from virtue, piety, and promoting the good of mankind. Surely, Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. Allah will not take you to task for the oaths you utter in vain, but will certainly take you to task for the oaths you utter in earnest. Allah is all-forgiving, all-forbearing. For those who vow abstinence from their wives, there is a respite of 4 months. Then, if they go back on their vow, they will find that Allah is all-forgiving, all-compassionate. And if they resolve on divorce, surely Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. Divorced women shall keep themselves in waiting for 3 menstrual courses, and it is unlawful for them, if they believe in Allah and the last day, to hide whatever Allah might have created in their wombs. Should their husbands desire reconciliation during this time, they are entitled to take them back into wedlock. Women have the same rights against their men as men have against them, but men have a degree above them. Allah is all-powerful, all-wise. Divorce can be pronounced twice, then either honorable retention or kindly release should follow. While dissolving the marriage tie, it is unlawful for you to take back anything of what you have given to your wives, unless both fear that they may not be able to keep within the bounds set by Allah. Then, if they fear that they might not be able to keep within the bounds set by Allah, there is no blame upon them for what the wife might give away of her property to become released from the marriage tie. These are the bounds set by Allah. Do not transgress them. Those of you who transgress the bounds set by Allah are indeed the wrongdoers. Then if he divorces her for the 3rd time after having pronounced the divorce twice, she shall not be lawful to him unless she first takes another man for a husband and he divorces her. There is no blame upon them if both of them return to one another thereafter, provided they think that they will be able to keep within the bounds set by Allah. These are the bounds of Allah, which He makes clear to a people who have knowledge of the consequences of violating those bounds. And so, when you divorce women and they reach the end of their waiting term, then either retain them in a fair manner or let them go in a fair manner. And do not retain them to their hurt or by way of transgression. Whosoever will do that will indeed wrong himself. Do not take the signs of Allah in jest, and remember Allah's favor upon you. He exhorts you to revere the book and the wisdom that He has sent down upon you. Fear Allah, and know well that Allah has full knowledge of everything. When you divorce women and they have completed their waiting term, do not hinder them from marrying other men if they have agreed to this in a fair manner. That is an admonition to every one of you who believes in Allah and the last day. That is a cleaner and purer way for you, for Allah knows whereas you do not know. If they, for instance the fathers, wish that the period of suckling for their children be completed, mothers may suckle their children for 2 whole years. In such a case, it is incumbent upon him who has begotten the child to provide them, for instance divorced women, their sustenance and clothing in a fair manner. But none shall be burdened with more than he is able to bear. Neither shall a mother suffer because of her child, nor shall the father be made to suffer because he has begotten him. The same duty towards the suckling mother rests upon the heir as upon him, for instance the father. And if both the parents decide, by mutual consent and consultation, to wean the child, there is no blame on them. If you decide to have other women suckle your children, there is no blame upon you, provided you hand over its compensation in a fair manner. Fear Allah, and know well that Allah sees all that you do. The wives of men who have died must observe a waiting period of 4 months and 10 days. When they have reached the end of the waiting term, there's no blame upon you regarding what they may do with themselves in a fair manner. Allah is well aware of what you do. There is no blame upon you whether you hint at a marriage proposal to such women or keep the proposal hidden in your hearts. Allah knows that you will think of them in that connection. But do not make any secret engagement with them, and speak openly in an honorable manner. Do not resolve on the marriage tie until the ordained term has come to its end. Know well that Allah knows even what is in your hearts, so have fear of Him, and know well that Allah is all forgiving, all forbearing. There is no blame upon you if you divorce your wives before you have touched them or settled a bridal gift upon them. But even in this case, you should make some provision for them, the affluent according to his means, the straitened according to his means, a provision in fair manner. That is a duty upon the good doers. And if you divorce them before you touch them or settle a bridal gift upon them, then give them half of what you have settled, unless either the women act leniently and forgo their claim, or he in whose hand is the marriage tie acts leniently and pays the full amount. If you act leniently, it is closer to God-fearing, and forget not to act gracefully with one another, for indeed Allah sees all that you do. Be watchful over the prayers and over praying with the utmost excellence, and stand before Allah as would utterly obedient servants. Those of you who die leaving behind your wives should make testament of 1 year's provision without expulsion in favor of your wives. And if they themselves depart, there shall be no blame upon you for what they may do with themselves in an honorable manner. Allah is Almighty, all-wise. Likewise, let there be a fair provision for the divorced women. This is an obligation on the God-fearing. Thus, Allah makes His injunctions clear to you, that you may understand. O Messenger, have you thought of those who went forth from their homes for fear of death, even though they were in their thousands? Allah said to them, "Die!" Then He restored them to life. Indeed, Allah is bounteous to mankind, but most people do not give thanks in return. So fight in the way of Allah, and know well that Allah is all-hearing, all-knowing. Who of you will lend Allah a goodly loan, which He will return after multiplying it for him manifold? For Allah has the power both to decrease and increase, and to Him will you be returned.